welcome to another Horror Review Sunday. Let's talk about John Carpenter's The Vampires. Just vampires, not the vampires, based on the novel Vampires with a $sign in it. Now, this was, I think, John Carpenter's last movie of the 90s, one of his more successful movies of the 90s, and he said when he was making this, like, if I don't have a good time making this movie, I'm done directing. I'm just not having fun anymore, but he had fun making this movie, so he made more. I've never seen anything he's done after this movie, so I can't say if they're good or bad, but I've heard bad things about, like, Ghost of Mars and The Ward. Anything he's done after this, I've never heard good things about. So some would say this is probably his last good movie. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not too crazy about some of his other 90s films, like In the Mouth of Madness. I thought was okay. I reviewed that one, so I guess this is probably my 5th Carpenter review. I should make a playlist of Carpenter reviews I've done, because I've talked about The Fog, Halloween, and In the Mouth of Madness, so if you want to check out those reviews, I'll try to leave a link. And let's talk about vampires. So this has James Woods, this has Daniel Baldwin. Alec Baldwin was supposed to be in the movie at one point, I think, but then he just gave it to his brother instead. And you got Sheryl Lee from Twin Peaks, and you got other people also, but yeah, those are the big ones. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a horror writer, director in this movie cameoed in it. I forget his name, Frank Darabont. He's the guy driving the Buick, I think. I read that somewhere, so if it's true, let me know. And so yeah, I really like this movie. So just going to spoil my thoughts right here. I really like it. You're not going to hear many negative things from me. I really enjoy this movie. It seems like this movie gets a little bit of hate. I hardly hear people bring it up. When people talk about vampire movies, they usually talk about the bigger ones, like The Lost Boys or Blade, which came out the same year as this one, I think, and has a very kind of similar premise, vampire hunters and shit. But yeah, like, people talk about other ones, and this one doesn't really get brought up as much, but I think it's a little underrated. It is very enjoyable to me, and let's talk about it. This is the Shout Factory edition right here I got. It's got the original poster underneath it, cool poster with the slipcover. So let's talk about the things that I liked about this movie. I really like that this one is a, like, hybrid of different genres. It's Western. It's got that setting, especially in the third act. The whole movie takes place in New Mexico. It's kind of like Lost Boys. That movie takes place in New Mexico also, I think, or Arizona. But this one, it has the Western feel, and the score by John Carpenter is very Western also, kind of. It's got like that rock sound with a little hint of Western in it. And so I just think that score really goes with the tone and feel of the movie, the aesthetic. And, you know, it also mixes, like, you know, humor and action and some suspense. So it's just a mixed bag of different genres. And I like movies that can kind of throw a bunch of genres together and do it successfully. It's just so many different genres in one. It's Western, vampire, horror, a little action, some love in the movie. A little, you know, there's that love interest that they throw in every movie. You know, a little romance between two characters. It's got everything. Humor. It's just a great movie. I really enjoy it. And it's got gore also. It's got K&B Effects, who I think also worked in other Carpenter films, like In the Mouth of Madness. And their effects in this movie are top-notch. The first kill in this movie is brutal and fantastic. And it's a shame that they didn't keep that up with the rest of the kills in the movie. They didn't keep up in each kill. They just blew their load up front. Like, let's give you an amazing kill right off the bat, and then everything after that just doesn't even hold a candle to the first kill. The actor Boone Jr., when he gets split in half, that looks realistic and fucking awesome. I really like the concept that they're going for here. Just a group of vampire hunters, you know, slayers they call themselves, hired by the Catholic Church to kill all the vampires that the Catholic Church accidentally created in like the 1300s. It's just a simple story, easy to follow. It's not complicated. And I love that they just kill all these slayers in like the first 15 minutes. And then he has to like get new, you know, members. And it's just, I like that shock at first, like, holy shit, they're already all dead. It's just James Woods and Daniel Baldwin. You know, I like, their chemistry together, Daniel Baldwin and James Woods. Yeah, I like his relationship with Padre. It's just very humorous. Lots of good humor from James Woods mainly. He injects basically all the comedy in this film. It all comes from his character alone. All the subtle humor, all the quirky lines in the movie come from him.
Have you ever seen a vampire? No. Well, first of all, they're not romantic, all right? It's not like they're a bunch of fucking fags hopping around in rented formal wear and seducing everybody in sight with cheesy Eurotrash accents, all right?
I like that these vampires are a little bit different. They sleep in the dirt. They don't sleep in coffins like traditional vampires. And they're very strong and mean. I just really like how brutal they are. I thought the acting across the board was pretty good. It's not Oscar-worthy stuff, but it's good acting. I like Daniel Baldwin and Sheryl Lee and James Woods. I thought they gave really good performances, and I really just love James Woods. He's the saving grace of the whole movie. He's the best part. Like, if you didn't have an awesome lead character in this movie, it wouldn't work as well. You really need a strong lead character, someone who's a badass and funny and entertaining, someone you can root for, and he's all the above. I really love James Woods in this movie. He is just so damn funny. All his improv lines just work to the film's benefit. He is absolutely hysterical when he's talking about, did I give you wood back there when I kicked your ass? And he's just telling people to shut the fuck up. I love his attitude. Just love how impatient he is. He just wants to get this damn cross and kill Valek once and for all. It's personal to him. Love his backstory. Very simple stuff. It's just a great character.
Yeah, fuck you, Padre.
Language. Mr. Crow, if you're not going to follow orders, I'm going to have to call Cardinal Alba.
Excuse me. Language.
Now, as for things that I didn't really care for all that much in this movie is the fact that the middle is a bit dry and bland. There's lots of like exposition. This movie is mainly story focused and dialogue driven in the middle, especially. They kind of bookend the film with the action sequences. There could have been a little bit more in the middle. There's like one massacre scene that we see telepathically from the lead actress here, but there's not a whole lot of action and stuff going on in the middle. It's mainly the beginning and end of the film where the action takes place. I just wish they would have put a little bit more in the middle, and there's not really a whole lot of suspense, so when it comes to horror, this movie doesn't really feel all that scary. There's not really a whole lot of attempts at being horrific. It's mainly just focusing on violence. Like, there's not a lot of suspense buildups or anything like that. Just a little bit in the beginning and a little bit at the end. It's just, there could have been a lot more suspense, a lot more action in the middle, I feel. And I really didn't care for a lot of the stuff between Montoya and Katrina. Like, their relationship felt very forced unless I'm missing something. Like, he gets bit at one point, and then he just seems madly in love with her. So is it the bite that made him love her? Because he goes quickly from, like, let's ditch this whore and leave her to die in the desert to, how dare you, Jack Crow, lay a finger on her and call her names. I love this woman. She's a prostitute he just freaking met the last night. Like, it came out of nowhere. It just feels like a forced relationship in the movie to have some romance there. Anytime the film would cut away from Jack Crow and Padre to Daniel Baldwin sleeping while trying to keep an eye on this woman who's about to turn into a vampire any minute, I got a little less engaged, a little less interested in the movie. Not completely taken out of it, not bored or anything, but I was less interested and less entertained with them. So that's just my little critique of the film there. But as for the rest of it, I really enjoyed it. Final thoughts, I really recommend this movie. It's a pretty fun vampire movie. It's got a terrific lead, good cast, some good gore. Just wish there was a little bit more of it, and a little bit more action in the middle. And this movie could have been an even more perfect film, but I still think it's enjoyable. I didn't ever get bored. It's definitely a little bit underrated if you ask me. It doesn't get a lot of love in the vampire community. So when it comes to vampires, if you're a fan of this genre, I think that you won't be disappointed with this one. Add it to your collection. Go out and buy it. Alright, time for a spoiler discussion. So, we open up with the crew, the Slayers, going to empty out this farmhouse. They think there's a nest there, and this whole opening, like 5 minutes or so, is like shot with this special like filter. So it's kind of jarring at first. They have like this dusk filter to make the film look like they're shooting it at like dusk, but it's actually the middle of the day. So like the top of your TV has like this red glow to it. So it's a little jarring at first, but that's just, the cinematographer using a special lens, and that's good cinematography work in the movie. I didn't talk about that in my positives, but it's a well-shot movie. John Carpenter, another good movie. He reuses a lot of camera tricks in this movie, lots of push-ins and a lot of crossfade editing in the movie. I realized that this time. Lots of crossfades in the editing. And so, yeah, they clear out this nest, and just a little subtle humor in there, too. Like, he's, like, making noise accidentally. He's, like, embarrassed, and then they put the stake through that one vampire's head, and just the fake head on that vampire looks pretty good. The K&B effects are pretty good. And I like their methods of, like, taking out these vampires. Like, the whole crossbow system they got, and they just drag them out. I thought that was interesting. Like, you'd never seen that before in a vampire movie, I don't think, like, the whole crossbow system and dragging them out into the sun. I love the way they burst into flames when the sun hits them. Instead of, like, turning into ash or something, they, like, ignite. And sometimes there's, like, sparkles, too, with their bodies. And so then they go to celebrate, and then Valek comes, and he crashes the party. He bites the hooker on her thigh, and she seems to be enjoying it. Every time somebody gets bit in this movie, it seems to be, like, sexually, arousing to them. They're always aroused by it and seem like they're having an orgasm all the time. They're like, oh, yeah. Like, even Daniel Baldwin, when he gets bit later on, he's, like, really into it. So they make being bit by a vampire in this movie seem like it's a good thing, like it's fun. And he kills this Boone, this Slayer, puts his hand in his stomach and slices him up. Fantastic. My only problem with it is that his entire hand should have been bloody. Like, when he puts his hand up and you see his hand afterwards, he's got like a little bit of blood on his fingertips, but his entire hand had to go through him to do that. Right? So it's like when his hand went up, there should have been a lot of blood on his hand just dripping off of his palms. But no, just a little bit of blood on his hands. Like, really, you're telling us that his hand went all the way through into his guts and went up. And it's like he's that powerful, but then everybody else, he seems to be like taking it easy on them. He's throwing them around. He's like smacking their face. Like, if he's that strong, he should smack their heads off like Julius and Jason Takes Manhattan. Like, he should be punching heads off, twisting heads around. That's what this movie really needed to, like, up the entertainment, and the gore. That would have been awesome if they did that. But it probably would have been cut because this is the late 90s. The MPAA was still a bunch of little fucking pricks at the time. And this movie was cut some. It was going to get an X rating, I read. And they had to cut some of the gore out. But luckily, we still got that kill. It's fantastic. And, like, the back shot from behind, and you see his body split open, like, blood spraying out of one of the, parts of the body. That was pretty cool. And he, like, punches a hole through that one guy. He starts strangling a girl while his arm's through another guy. Awesome. And so then they crash their car. They're fleeing the scene, and they crash their car. They're all unbuckled, and the car's, like, flipping and rolling a few times, and then they kind of just walk away unhurt. They're kind of hurt, but not enough. Like, they should be fucked up. And so then he has to go back. He disposes of the bodies. We get a lot more gore here. He's sawing heads off, driving stakes through their hearts. He goes and he already finds, like, a pre-dug hole out there. There's like a crack in the ground, so he just uses that because he doesn't want to actually, like, dig a hole because he's a little injured from that car crash. So yeah, just like that. He's, like, taking all these heads, and it's very gory. And so then, the other guy, Daniel Baldwin, he's at the hotel, and this is when the movie gets a little bogged down because I didn't really care too much about all the stuff with them. And he just keeps sleeping. Like, he sleeps like 2 or 3 times while trying to watch this girl, and she's not even tied up. And she could be a vampire at any moment for all he knows. So it's like, what are you doing, buddy? He falls asleep like twice, and there's a moment where he lets her go into the restroom to, like, change. And then she has, like, this, like, moment where she sees what Valek's doing, and it cuts to him, and he's already asleep. Like, he just fell asleep, like, a minute later. It's like, you just escorted her into the restroom, and then hard cut a minute later, like, he's asleep. Like, this guy is one tired motherfucker. And then I think this is when you see, like, Frank Darabont. He's, like, in the the Buick that they steal. And James Woods, he walks away from the explosion like a badass. You know, the explosion goes off, all the fire, he's not even looking. That's an action movie trope. Why are they whispering in the hotel? Like, they're being very dramatic with their, like, line delivery. Daniel Baldwin, you know, Montoya and Katrina, they're talking to each other, but they're, like, whispering in a hotel room. It's like, why are we whispering? It's a hotel room. It's not a library. Speak up. And so, yeah, Montoya, he's sleeping. She bites him. And when she bites him, it's like, you deserve it, jackass. He's like, look what you did to my arm. He, like, leaves his hand extended. His whole arm is extended for a few seconds, like, right near her mouth. What did he think she was going to do? Of course she bit your arm, you dipshit. And then he, like, clocks her. He punches her lights out. And then later on, like, the next day, he's mad at James Woods, at Jack Crow, for, you know, calling her a half-dead whore or something. It's like, did the bite make him in love with her? Because after this moment, he's, like, in love with her, and it came out of nowhere. She's just a prostitute, vampire to him in one moment, and then the next, after he's bit, the next morning, he's like all about her. He's calling her babe and honey, you know, all these terms of endearment, like they're dating or some shit. It's like, you just fucking met her. You know nothing about her except that she's about to be a vampire. So then we get this priest that gets beheaded, very gnarly. It's a quick cutaway, but awesome. This other chick just gets her throat slashed. And Crow, we find out he had to kill his own dad as a kid, so he's willing to kill anybody. If you turn into a vampire, you could be his own mother. He's going to kill you, because that's how much he hates vampires. So he's perfect for that job. And so then all these priests, they get massacred. He's trying to get to this Brazier cross thing that's going to grant him the ability to be able to walk in the sunlight, which makes sense. This whole plot is like an action movie, really. This is the kind of plot you would get in an action movie where you got the lead villain, he's after something that's valuable, it's usually money or something that's worth a lot of money. In this case, it's a, you know, some kind of ancient relic cross thing that's going to give him powers. It's very valuable, and they get the thing, and then this person, this group of, you know, action heroes has to go save the day and get it from them and, you know, stop the end of the world, basically. It's like an action movie plot in this movie. So they track Valek to this old, like, western town that's completely abandoned in New Mexico. Great setting for the final act. And they come up with this elevator plan, which doesn't seem like a great plan. It seems like there's a lot of room for error. It wouldn't work in a million years. Like, you go down there, you lure one person at a time into the elevator and somehow successfully escape into the hatch above in time, and then the doors will open and I'll shoot them and then we drag them out. It's like, that's going to take some time, and it seems like a lot can go wrong with that plan. But it works for them. You know, there's a few bumps along the road, but they get out okay. And so then it's nighttime, Valek and his crew come out, and Padre just, like, dives into this bar, and no one ever goes after him. They never even look for him. Do they forget he existed in their group? It's like they don't even look for him so he can, you know, surprise the Cardinal later and shoot him. You know, we find out, you know, the little twist in the movie that the Cardinal, he doesn't really believe in God. He's fearing death. He doesn't want to die, so he's going to help Valek, yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, I couldn't believe nobody ever looked for Padre. It's like, they saw him, like, dive into that place, I thought. And so then, like, Daniel Baldwin, he shoots the cross that Jack Crow's on, and he, like, drags it. Good thing it landed the way it did, because if it landed the other way, Jack Crow, his face would have been dragged across the dirt and the gravel. He would have been fucked up. So that worked out perfect for him. And I was confused why it went from, like, night to, like, morning so quickly. Like, it just went to night and they captured Jack Crow, and by the time they're doing this whole, like, you know, whatever it's called, ritual, it's like the sun's coming up. So I was like, what, they waited all fucking night to do this? And I found it's like one little quick line of dialogue. They say, like, that it has to be sunrise when they're doing it conveniently. Like, that's why the sun's coming up. They have to kill Jack Crow, feed his blood to Valek, and burn him at the cross while the sun's going up. So that's why. It was a line I missed the first time, but luckily this time I caught it, because I was always confused. Like, how did it go from night, you know, the previous scene, to the sun's already coming up? It took that long to do what they were wanting to do. So, yeah, in case you didn't know, That's why. They had to wait for the sun. Alright, so after that, we get this very, Fright Night ending, how he defeats Valek, which I read that, or heard, that was James Wood's idea. Like, originally he was just supposed to stab him with that thing, and that killed him, but they changed it, so he stabs him with the thing, it doesn't kill him, and then he, knocks down, a pillar, and the roof collapses, and then the sun comes in and kills him. But if you look at the roof, there's already enough holes in it. That room is very illuminated, it's very well lit. It seems like there's enough sunlight going in that he would be burning in that room anyways. There's enough sun going through there. So I don't see why that was even necessary, knocking the pillar up, but whatever. It just seemed like he was already in the sunlight that entire scene. So now after Valek is destroyed and defeated, Daniel, Baldwin, his character, he got bit by Katrina. She took a whole meaty chunk out of his neck, and he seemed to really be enjoying it. He basically tells Montoya, he gives him the whole Taken speech. This is way before Taken, but he says it almost verbatim. He's like, I will track you down, I will find you, and I will kill you. He should have said, I have a particular set of skills, hunting vampires, and I will kill you. He gave him the whole Taken speech, 10 years before Taken was ever a movie. I thought that was really interesting. Watch it again. I think the lines were almost identical. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then, of course, that never goes anywhere in the sequel. There's an unofficial sequel called Vampires, Los Muertos something. And it's directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, and it has Bon Jovi in it. I've never seen it, doesn't look good, there's no continuity in it, so I'm not going to watch it. So it has a terrible rating, and it looks dreadful. So not going to review that next Sunday, so don't be looking for it. But yeah, that's the end of this movie. That's really all. I like that they end on the whole did you get wood joke again. They bring it back from earlier. That's a great way to cap the film off with a little humor. So that was pretty good. That was a good ending.
Let me ask you a question. When you were stabbing that vampire in there,
yeah,
did you get a little wood?
Mahogany.
Excuse me?
Ebony.
What?
Teak.
Are you possessed by demons?
And he's like, are you possessed by demons, Padre? Just get a little bit of wood back there when you were stabbing that vampire. So just a great ending. So awards, the Hockey Mask Award for Best Character in this movie will definitely go to Jack Crow. James Woods is awesome in this movie as the lead action hero. And the prettiest girl in this movie is, of course, Katrina, played by Sheryl Lee. And the Clapper Award for Best Scene in this movie, one of the best scenes in this movie would be the Sun God Motel massacre at the beginning, and then when Jack Crow has to dispose of the bodies and then burn the place down to the ground. Everything with the hotel I really liked. And the Funny Bone Award for funniest moment in the scene, of course, is when Jack Crow says, did you get a Woody back there when I was kicking your ass? Great example of how improv can really help a film. And those are my thoughts on John Carpenter's Vampires. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.